As you just saw, the phrase join forces is to work together to get something done. Parley for the Oceans, FENC, and Adidas are working together on this project.
Ah, I get it. So they've all come together to be one force.
Right. An example might be, instead of fighting with each other, the siblings joined forces to get their parents a nice gift.
That's hard for siblings to do
It
sometimes.
is,
Okay, well, let's talk about Parley for the Ocean. And this is an international organization, and it's dedicated to saving the world's oceans. Okay, so they will do a lot of work with plastic pollution and maybe animals that are in the oceans, that sort of thing. Then we learned about FENC. Now, this is a Taiwanese company, and it works with textiles. Now, textile is spelled Textile, and what they are is a large quantity of cloth that's used to make clothing and other different products. Okay, let's find out what they're doing here in the article. It says, together they have created shoes made from upcycled plastic. There was a grammar pattern in that sentence that we need to look at. We learned that the shoes are made from upcycled plastic. Now we're going to look at the grammar pattern A be made from B and A be made of B. They're very similar, but there are small differences in the way that we use it. Now we often use the grammar pattern A be made from B to say how or with what materials something is manufactured or produced. Now, we also use the phrase A is made of B to show what materials make a product. Here are a couple of examples. It's a little bit confusing, so pay close attention. This table was made from some old pieces of wood I found in my backyard. So I went to my backyard, I found different kinds of things around my backyard, and I put them together and I made a table from these pieces. Now we can also say this table is made of wood. That means we're taking a material from a tree, wood, and we're using this material just to make a table. This table is made of wood, or this table was made from some pieces of wood I found in my backyard.
Let's also take a look at that word upcycle. It's a verb, and it means to reuse something in a more useful and important way. This idea is a new version of the word recycle, which you probably know is to reuse something that's already been used. But here, instead of recycling the plastic bags into more plastic bags, this project is upcycling them by turning them into shoes, which are more useful than plastic bags.
And that's a really, really good thing to do. As you know, plastic bags are really bad for our environment. Taiwan is even taking steps to try to stop using so many. So if we can find a way to use old plastic bags in a better way, that's a really good thing. Now, one interesting thing to note is that this group of companies has also made a pair of men's shorts. Now, they're not made from plastic, but from other recycled fabrics, which I think is really interesting. They're taking other old fabrics and making new clothing. Okay, let's find out what the article says next. It says here, the new releases, those are the new shoes, don't just look sharp, they're good for the planet too. Now we should mention that the adjective sharp here doesn't mean that the sneakers will cut you. They're not like a knife or anything. Sharp here is just another way of saying the sneakers look cool or stylish.
The article then says, the popular sneakers, including the EQT Support ADV sneaker and the Parley Ultra Boost, are knitted from yarn made from plastic along with other materials.
Okay.
A sneaker is something you're probably familiar with. It's a kind of soft shoe with a rubber sole that's often used for sports. They're sometimes called running shoes, though sometimes that means shoes that are just for running. And in British English, like in the UK, they're called trainers. Examples of sneakers could be a lot of Adidas shoes or Converse. An example might be, when Josh puts his sneakers on, his dog knows it's time to go for a run.
Okay, well, we also learned about yarn. So we're
Right.
making these shoes from yarn, but what is yarn?
Yarn is the thread or string of whatever material, maybe cotton, maybe wool, in this case plastic, that's used to make clothing. Yarn is woven together by hand or by a machine to make pieces of clothing.
So you could say that the clothes we're wearing have yarn.
Right. At some point, my sweater was a roll of yarn, and then it was made into this nice sweater.
Okay.
An example might be, working hard, Mike turned the brightly colored yarn into a big warm hat.
That's a nice thing to have in the cold winters.
Right.
Okay, well, we also saw the phrase along with. Now, how are we using this phrase here?
Here, we're using along with to show that something is done or used together with something else. The yarn used to make the shoe is made from plastic and other materials.
Right. Okay, so what is an example we can say? Maybe put the sugar and the flour in the bowl along with the butter. So you're
Right.
putting them all in together.
Right.
Okay. Now, there is obviously no shortage of places to look for plastic pollution near or in the ocean. Now, the Pacific Ocean, in fact, has something called the Great Pacific Garbage Patch.
Right.
Now, this is a place, it's actually just 100 million tons of plastic pollution floating all together in the ocean. And it's not just on the surface either. It goes 100 feet deep in some places as well. So, with lots of places to find plastic pollution. Let's find out
Right.
where these groups found it. It says, to supply the plastic, Parley for the Oceans collects plastic from the beaches and coastal communities in the Maldives.
Right.
Now, we saw the adjective coastal here to describe communities. Now, this adjective describes things or places that are near the coast of a sea or ocean or in the waters just next to land. So, for instance, Taipei isn't a coastal city, but parts of New Taipei, like Danshui, are.
Right.
And now here's an example sentence. Towns in coastal areas may be in danger from big waves after an earthquake. In fact, I heard recently that one place in Canada was
Right.
just threatened with one of
Right,
those a
and
couple of
Alaska.
months ago. Yeah, that's crazy. All right, now let's find out what about this place that they're looking. The Maldives is a country made up of a group of 26 very small islands
Right.
called atolls. That word's spelled A-T-O-L-L, atoll. Now, they're in the Indian Ocean. And a couple more facts. Fewer than 500,000 people live there, and it's a very popular place to visit because of the beautiful beaches.
Right. It's a whole country made up of a lot of small islands. The article then says, the Taiwanese company FENC is then responsible for transforming this ocean waste into high-quality yarn.
Okay, so we learned that the company FENC is a textile company. So they've got this yarn now, and they are responsible for making them into shoes. The phrase be responsible for is used to show that you are in charge of this thing to make sure that it happens correctly. For example, at my house, I'm responsible for keeping the plants alive. That means I need to water them and get them lots of sunlight and those things. I'm responsible for keeping them alive. I'm in charge of the plants. Here's another example. Frank is responsible for answering customers' emails when they have problems with a product.
That word transform that we just heard is a verb, and it means to change from one thing into another. You might recognize this word from the name of the Transformers toys, movies, and games, because the Transformers turn from robots into cars,
Oh,
or
yeah.
from cars into robots.
Right. Okay.
Right. And some animals do this too. Some animals, like butterflies, start out as something else and transform into a different shape.
Right.
That's an example of how we can use this word.
Okay. We know that they are caterpillars first, which is spelled C-A-T-E-R-P-I-L-L-A-R, caterpillar.
Right.
And then they transform into butterflies.
Right.
Okay, what does the article say next?
It says, in this way, pollution becomes a valuable resource.
Now we all know what pollution is, but it's a word that we need to talk about in our article today. This noun is any substance that makes the water, air, or land dirty, usually in a dangerous way or in a way that will seriously affect life on the earth. Now this could be plastic like we see in the oceans, smoke or dangerous gases in the air, they affect the way we breathe, or chemical waste ruining the soil we grow our crops in. Those are just some examples. Here's another example sentence. There is so much pollution on the beach. Let's do our part to help clean it up.
Right. And that sentence said that pollution can become a resource. That word resource is a noun that means something useful, valuable, and important. Things like wood, iron, and coal are commonly used resources. And an example might be, a country with lots of resources can make money by turning them into products.
Okay, but that means pollution isn't just garbage anymore.
Right.
Now it's being used in a valuable way that helps the earth.
Right.
And the article continues by saying, so far, Adidas's eco-friendly shoes have been a success and have raised awareness about the company's environmental efforts with consumers. Now let's just talk briefly about this adjective eco-friendly. The prefix eco shows that something is green or that it helps the earth instead of harming it. Eco-friendly describes things that are friendly to the earth. Okay, now we can also put eco in front of other words. Ecotourism is when travel companies or travelers try to travel in a way that doesn't hurt the earth.
Exactly. And that word awareness is a noun that means knowledge about something. We often use awareness talking about important issues like the environment, because we use it to talk about people knowing about a problem. The article here is saying that the shoes help people learn about Adidas's environmental efforts.
Okay.
Another example sentence might be, the group worked to raise awareness of people around the world who live without clean water.
Okay, and we're trying to raise awareness for consumers here. Consumer is a noun and it's someone who buys a product or pays money to use a service. In effect, we're all consumers. Think about the last time you bought something. It probably wasn't long ago, was it?
Right.
Now, every time we buy something, get our hair cut, put gas in our cars, we are being consumers. Here's an example. The company is studying consumer habits so it knows which products people buy the most.
That's right. And the article finishes by saying, hopefully, in the future, more countries will follow this leading brand's example.
More companies.
More companies, yes, you're right, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Well, we're at the end of the article today, so what we're going to do is we're going to close off with today's For You chat. See you in a second.